Ever wondered if you would survive Dead by Daylight, a dark place run by an ancient spider-like creature who feeds on emotion? Round any corner the potential to run into one of the many killers that reside in the realm, all with different abilities and personalities. Which of them could you survive if they dropped into the world now and started to hunt you? Hey everyone, today we're going to be discussing just that. I asked all of you over on Discord if you think you could survive each of the killers. I wanted to give my input and discuss yours too. Let's imagine the scenario here is that you've just escaped the realm of the entity. You've returned back to the real world, and now the entity is angry and has sent one of its killers after you. So let's get into it. Trapper got a fairly moderate response, with most saying they would probably survive, but barely. Outside of the realm, Trapper would be relatively easy to avoid, I think, being quite slow and requiring a good amount of time to set up traps to even stop or catch you. In the realm, he would definitely pose more of a threat, with the area being more restricted and possibility to circle back into the traps a lot more likely. Out in the open of the real world though, and I think you'd have a decent shot. Effin is from probably around the late 1800s to early 1900s, and so doesn't have a sat-nav or anything. He's not going to be able to track you down too well if you get far enough away. If you do get close and into an altercation, however, not much can be done at that point. He's a big hulking guy with spikes twisting through his skin. He's likely not going to care about punches or anything like that, making him very dangerous up close. The ability Trapper has to catch you is largely hinging on his ability to keep you within his territory of the Macmillan estate. Without it, he's not the scariest of the killers. Wraith is a character who has a slight advantage from the get-go due to being able to cloak himself with his bell. I think you all shared my sentiment here too of not escaping him. He can go invisible and go faster than a running person. This means you probably have to outsmart him by other means, but much of the time you probably won't know where he is or where he could next be lurking, making him deadly for sure. And nowadays he doesn't even have the light burn mechanic, otherwise you could just, lead him out into some sunlight and get away pretty easily. Billy is a character who got slightly more contention, but ultimately the consensus fell to certain death. I would tend to agree. Billy has a chainsaw that allows him to travel at superhuman speed, going even faster when entering his overdrive. His one downside is his lack of ability to move from side to side once he begins his sprint. Again, it would likely be best to take smart maneuvers over straight up outrunning him, because that's just not going to happen. At least in the case of Billy, you'd hear the sound of the chainsaw constantly, giving you a vague whereabouts of where he is. This would maybe allow for a potential escape, but not likely. Nurse is another character most said they wouldn't survive, and this one I have to agree with in a pretty simple way. She has telekinetic powers, and she's able to blink towards you with great speed. She's probably not escapable. In the same way she sort of breaks the game, this would pretty much extend to real life too, where there's nowhere to hide essentially. Even in a high security vault, she could just blink in and find you. So while she is one of the frailer appearing killers, it's very unlikely you escape her relentless pursuit. Myers was a character that most people considered unlikely to survive. I'm actually sort of the opposite. He's a character that's easily distracted and tends to just kill anything in his path, leaving you likely a good amount of time to escape. Equally, he is a little obsessive, let's say, and might lock onto you like he did for Laurie if he was specifically tasked to hunt you. In that case, yeah, I would say it's unlikely you survive, with his ability to routinely resurrect himself and also sort of teleport it seems when stalking you. A character who would give you sleepless nights. But a character I do think could be possible to escape, although you would never stop looking over your shoulder. Hag is a character with a bit more of a varied response. She's a bit like Trapper in the sense that if you escape her territory, she's a little useless being just a trap character. Then again, she does have the powerful hexes able to curse you and make a bunch of bad things happen, like death for example. That's pretty bad. Even if you did manage to initially escape her, she could just set a bunch of curses on you, and one day when you're walking down the street or something, completely random and unlikely things might happen that put you in the way of danger. I think she's a deceptive one, but a character I don't think I would survive. Doctor is another character people thought they wouldn't escape, with a few saying maybe. I do tend to think he would be tough because he spent decades studying the human brain and behavior, and now he's got an inexhaustible spark inside him that lets him blast electricity from his fingertips. Unlike in the Realm 2, this is probably deadly outside of the realm. He's able to relentlessly shock and force you slowly into madness, if the shock doesn't just straight up stop your heart or something to begin with. So a terrifying character to face down. Huntress is a character I don't think you'd survive. She's an expert hunter with pinpoint aim, and known to have taken down whole villages and squadrons of soldiers. It's unlikely I'd survive that, I think. An apex predator, essentially. Maybe she's a bit out of place if you took her into a city or something, but that's unlikely to shake her aim. Bubba is a character I think is perfectly escapable, with him being fairly confused a lot of the time. Sure, up close and personal, he's a pretty scary character to be around, with that chainsaw. However, make some distance and get away from him and he's relatively slow and unable to do anything really. If you lose him initially, it's unlikely he's finding you, with him also hating the idea of leaving his home. He wouldn't stray too far, and would be very nervous when he does. Freddy is a character you would undoubtedly be unable to escape. He's a dream demon. He enters your dreams and torments you from within them. Even in the film, when he is defeated by Nancy and Quentin, he ends up returning anyway. It's simply not a viable option to never sleep and continually have adrenaline or something. This is one of the most guaranteed losses, I think. He's quite literally inescapable as a character. You have to sleep, and when you do, he's in his own world, in the dream world, able to do whatever he wants. An inescapable monster. Pig is a character who's quite hit and miss. While she has no supernatural power, she is a bit of an obsessive, and has been able to find and take people for Jigsaw's games with no problem. Therefore, I think it sort of depends on the situation, but ultimately, she either sneaks up on you, or you manage to always just get away from her grasp. Once you're inside one of her games though, it's unlikely you get out, with them often being rigged. A character that is potentially escapable, but undeniably persistent and obsessive. Clown got a decent number of votes for not surviving or slightly surviving, but I think he's one of the easiest to survive. He's slow and held back by his addictions. Sure, he has his bottles which can slow your speed and distort your vision, but that's only if he gets close. He's noted to be sloppy in the lore and to have victims get away in the past, leading to bad situations for him where he's hunted down. Clown, I think, is one of the least threatening of the roster, being a sloppy and slow killer. Still, I would not want to run into him, don't get me wrong. Spirit is a character who's unlikely able to be injured by any sort of human attack, as she's supernatural and a ghost it seems. She's able to turn invisible when phasing and can suddenly appear out of nowhere, catching you off guard and attacking you swiftly. I find it very unlikely that you could escape her, with her relentless anger and strong ability. When phasing, she can still see the environment and hear you breathing, so there's not really any means of escape, I would say. A truly terrifying character to encounter. Legion are one of the slightly different characters, being not one but four, but also being largely human. Their ability in-game is running a bit faster and being able to cause great damage with their blades. This one is sort of a coin toss, I think. In the opening of the hunt, it's going to be stressful escaping four of them running around, but after that there is very little they can do. Even up close there's a chance to fight them off, as we see the in-game survivors do in their Mori. I think Legion is one of the most survivable in the game, being largely just humans with a slightly more effective blade technique. Plague is a character that carries a deadly plague, meaning even if you get relatively close to her, it's probably not good. With that said, the plague is from a long time ago in the BCEs, meaning it's unlikely to affect the modern day human really, with most probably having immunity. It's actually quite possible you could infect her with something. Assuming the entity has enhanced the plague itself to be more supernatural and dangerous though, yeah, it's inescapable. If you become infected, it's pretty much over, with a slow process of becoming injured and constant vomiting. Not very nice and extremely deadly. Ghostface is a character that most considered pretty survivable, but I honestly couldn't disagree more. He's a character known for his stalking and meticulous nature who is going to focus on a target and catch them no matter what, doing so when they least expect. Sure, he's just a guy, but he has the tools to track and blend in with the environment and appear even normal before striking. He does lack on the supernatural front, but he is undeniably deadly. Demogorgon is a creature I don't see anyone surviving really. It's able to break into the real world through basically any point, traversing the upside down to clear long passages of distance. It has deadly claws and impenetrable skin that's going to make it hard to fight back in any discernible way too. It is fast and pretty unstoppable as a creature, I think. It further has the backup of all of its upside down buddies, including the Mind Flayer. Good luck escaping that. Oni is my new choice, I think, for least survivable thus far. Kazan is a character who rampaged across Japan, slaughtering all in his path, with the number likely totaling over 1,000. He's a highly trained, highly skilled, powerful samurai, and now a demon able to hunt you down relentlessly and efficiently. There is no argument here, I think. You cannot survive a character like the Oni. Deathslinger is a bounty hunter with years of experience and a character who always finds his target, even if it takes years. I do, however, think you could evade him, at least initially. He's a bit slower nowadays with his injured leg, which is going to restrict him from running towards you with great speed and catching up. His spear gun does provide range, but can be dodged, with it only having one shot available before it needs resetting. Initially escapable, I think, but ultimately inescapable, with him being an expert tracker and, well, bounty hunter. Pyramid Head is a punisher and a character who is going to relentlessly pursue until he fulfills his goal. It's unclear if weapons would injure him, and even if they do, he probably just comes back because he's more of an idea than anything else. He is slow with his great knife and loud with his approach, but he is undeniably unstoppable once you come face to face with him. Presumably he would have no problem tracking too, with him being supernatural and otherworldly. Those he hunts, he has some sort of tie to, meaning he'll probably find you always, no matter what. Blight is a character hard to outmaneuver due to him being so fast. He can quickly run and bounce towards you, and there is little to do to stop him. He's constantly juiced up on his refined serum and is immune seemingly to damage, and does not seem to tire. I'm just straight up not sure how you could overcome Blight, like at all really. A fast character with no concern for endurance or pain, like knock the guy over and he's just getting right back up and sprinting towards you. Twins are a lot less deadly than some of the others here, but are definitely going to be tough to escape. This is partly down to Victor being so fast. He can run and leap at you and attach onto you, making it hard to move and escape from Charlotte. Together they are tough to manage, but each alone, and maybe not. The issue is they are barely ever going to be separate for long, and Victor can eternally be reconstructed, meaning there's little way to escape them. Victor will always come growling and screaming back. They are not the most intimidating upon initially looking at them, but they will be tough to defeat with their years of survival skills. Easier than some others, but not easy. Trickster is a bit of a coin toss because he's not the fastest, he's quite performative and likes to take his time, and his blades don't injure you quite as much as a normal one would. He does have the benefit though of his wealth, which allows him to easily move around and get anywhere he wants with ease. It's part of why he's so scary as a character, is his fame, status, and wealth allowing him to get away with what he does. I do however think he is escapable, unlike some others, still just being a human and lacking any sort of powerful weapon. Even when you're up and close with him, there's still probably a decent chance you could escape and get away, at least maybe. Nemesis is a lethal pursuer and is able to mostly successfully hunt down the Stars team. It's unlikely I or anyone else survives him. He's a big hulking BOW who plows through anything in his way. Try and hide and he's bursting through the wall. Try and run and he's probably just faster. Jill survives him largely by luck and him playing around with his kill. Nemesis is definitely not escapable. Pinhead is a character that can bind you with chains from a distance and can even pull you into his own realm of the labyrinth. If he manages to get even one chain on, then it's likely over. The best way to avoid him is to not touch the box. However, this likely doesn't stop him still from teleporting about and finding you regardless, an otherworldly and highly powerful being. Artist is a tough one to judge, but a character that's going to be hard to shake due to her crows, which she can fire out. These crows are going to make it hard to hide and allow her to even injure you from a distance, making escapes quite hard. She is relatively slow however, and does lack a clear weapon aside her inky hands, meaning there's maybe a better chance against her, although definitely not a sure one. Sadako is a character who no one could escape, I think. She can kill you with just a look, able to curse you and ensure death across the course of 7 days. She has telekinetic powers and is able able to move around with ease, crawling out of TVs and various other objects. You can't even really fight back because she can just demanifest, making it impossible to damage her in any way. A true horror to face. Dredge is on a similar level of being truly inescapable. It's a creature made up mostly of fog and is able to easily find you with its ability to teleport about. It appears whenever there are negative thoughts, so I suppose the best means to counter it are just staying very positive. However, that's going to be hard, I imagine, when being hunted by the Dredge. It seems impossible to hide from, inexhaustible, and would undeniably catch you eventually. Truly terrifying. Wesker is a character similar to Nemesis, being a BOW, enhanced with Ouroboros. He's able to bound extremely quickly, is largely immune to damage, and can dodge bullets, he is so fast. There is little chance you escape Wesker, I think, especially with the determination he has, and just how fragile his ego is. If you escape him, it's going to infuriate him, and just compel him even more. Knight is a character you're likely not escaping, with him being the character in the game to make survivors constantly occupied. Even at a distance, he can place down a long trail and lead his guards to you. It's a case where you're pretty much always going to be pursued by him or a guard, and eventually it's going to corner you or result in exhaustion. Aside this, the guy is a hulking and powerful knight who has fought through hundreds, an unlikely character to survive. Skull Merchant is a character that doesn't look all too intimidating, however she would likely be hard to escape. She has a similar deal to Trickster, having a high level of wealth, except she's also kitted out with better tech and to the ability to track you with her drones. There's no escaping her really in that sense. The best bet I think would just be trying to directly fight her, with her being mostly human and the main danger being her large dual blade weapon. I think most wouldn't win, but it would still be a better shot than a lot of the other characters on the list, with her again still being just a human. Singularity is a highly intelligent AI, which took out an entire crew on the planet of Devaka, and did so with great ease. Singularity can shoot biopods into the environment and attach them onto you, which lets him then teleport to you. If you don't have an EMP handy, like most I would say, this means you can basically never escape him. Sure, Gabriel did overcome him in the lore, but did so ever so slightly, and ultimately would have been caught had he not been taken into the realm. Singularity is an intelligent and inescapable robot that despises humanity and sees all beneath him as worms. A character again with a bit of an ego, a lust for revenge, and a lot of power on his side. Xenomorph is an alien and is sometimes described as the perfect organism. It's a relentless and unstoppable creature which is fast, intelligent, and able to approach with great stealth. There's maybe a slight chance to counter it with fire, but this isn't really a reliable thing to use forever. Ultimately, it's an apex predator that cuts through whole crews and squadrons of soldiers with ease. It's unlikely to survive it. There's also likely no way to reason with it really either, which is maybe a possibility for some other characters to buy some time. I would not want to encounter one, let's put it that way. Chucky was a character people felt pretty confident when asked if they could escape him. He is a doll after all, and whilst he is relentless and has routinely come back from the dead, he gets defeated in pretty much every film he's in, and is heavily restricted by the fact that he's a doll. He is shown repeatedly to get overpowered and easily thrown away due to his smaller size. I do agree in this case that he's one of the easiest characters to escape. He's relentless, sure, but heavily restricted by his size and vulnerability as a doll. You could probably even catch him and put him in a cage, and there's not much he could do. He can be pretty crafty, but ultimately if you do manage to overpower him, then there's not much he can do really. Overall, the characters I reckon I could survive or outrun in some way comes down to very few, an incredibly deadly roster of characters, none of which I would want to see or face in real life.